Hello students, myself NK Tukral from Edupedia world. Today I am going to give you hot tips on long answer type questions. Now students, and let me give you what are the points to be kept in mind before answering the questions. Number one is read the questions twice before you proceed to answer. Students, this is my humble advice to you that always make it a point to read the questions twice before you make up your mind to answer the same. Never go in a hurriedly manner. Next is read what is asked, justify or explain. Where the question needs your justification or explanation, what you should do. In such type of questions where the form of quotation is given and answer require your justification, just ensure that explanation is given by justifying properly and to the point. Next point is explanation to be up to the point. Students, always ensure that detailed answer is given keeping in mind the text as per NCERT book. What are the text is given in the NCERT book, always keep in mind that one. Never try to give unnecessary explanation. Another point to be kept in mind is never try to make answer unnecessary lengthy. Students, always be short in answering the question and as per requirement what the question required from you. Another is where comparison of two subjects is required, give only basis of difference in brief. This is a very important, students, where whatever the question is asked to you and where comparison is required, what you have to do, basis of differences, that is an important thing. Always give basis of difference in the answer and underline it while answering and compare the two items preferably in the form of proper format. Another point is better if basis of differences between two items presented in tabular form. Students, always try to answer such type of questions in tabular form. Another is where a quotation is given and require answer to comment. Try to answer with proper justification, and justification what you feel and what you accept in your mind that this should be the answer and you need to give proper justification. Now students, let's go ahead and now let me give you illustrative questions. So number one question is, what is invisible trade? Discuss salient aspects of India trade in services. Now this is a long answer type question and you need to write first of all that what is invisible trade? What do you mean? I can give you a hint that what is invisible? You must be knowing what is the dictionary meaning of invisible. Means you cannot feel, cannot be seen or touched. So you need to write that invisible trade refers to dealing in those items which cannot be seen, felt, touched or measured. For example, services of shipping, banking, insurance, etc. So you are giving the example also. Like this you have to answer. Second part is discuss salient features of India's trade in services. Unless you know what is India's involvement in business, you cannot write the answer. So you must be remembering when we had gone through the international business chapter and I had given you the data regarding India's involvement in world business. That is India's foreign trade in goods, India's trade in services and India's foreign investment. Here the answer require India's trade in services. You have to write what is the Indians' involvement, whether the trade in services increased or decreased, and plus you have to give the proper data also. Next illustrative question is, Mitika Garments has received an order for export of 5,000 men's trousers to Swift Imports in Canada. Discuss the procedure Mitika Garments to follow. Here in the question, Mitika Garment has received an order for export of 5,000 men's trousers to Canada and you need to how to export this. So what is being asked? Simply a procedure is asked. So procedure of export needs to be given. Like in international business, I may give you the hint, you need to give proper headings, then you explain briefly. Now students, let's see what is the question asked from you on such a long answer type question. In what ways is exporting a better way of entering into international markets than setting up wholly owned subsidiary abroad? So what ways exporting, if you export some item and if you want to set up wholly owned subsidiary abroad, which one is beneficial? So in this question, you need to first give advantages and then limitation of the other part of wholly owned subsidiary abroad, and then come to the conclusion and just underline what you feel is important to be underlined. Now students, let's go ahead. Next question is, itinerant traders have been an integral part of internal trade in India. Analyze the reasons for their survival in spite of competition from large-scale retailers. So everybody is aware that itinerant traders always get tough competition from large-scale retailers as they are the small traders. So what you need to write under survival, the various reasons. First you underline it. The various reasons for survival of itinerant traders are, one by one you have to give. I will give you a hint what you need to write. Itinerant traders need less amount of capital. Number one, you underline the less amount of capital. Second, they provide greater service to the customers by making the products available to their doorstep. So this needs to be underlined, that their doorstep means products are available to their doorstep. Next is, they generally sell goods at prices lower than charged by the fixed shop retail traders because of minimum establishment expenses. But you need to underline that generally sell goods of prices lower than charged by fixed shop retail traders. Another you can give reason, they deal. Itinerant traders deal in consumer products of daily use such as toiletry products, fruit, vegetable, etc., which helps to maintain personal contact with the customer. Another reason you can give, there is no risk of bad debts as goods are mostly sold on cash basis. So what you need to underline here, no risk of bad debts. So like this you have to answer and give the proper justification. Now students, let us go ahead. Next illustrative question is, imagine life without your local market. What is the question? Means you have to assume if life is there and there is no local market. So question is, imagine life without your local market. What difficulties would a consumer face if there is no retail shop? The question is that if there is no retail shop in your area, what difficulty you will face? So like this question is there and you need to answer. Now students, you go back to chapter on internal trade and you have to see what is retail trade and what are the services of retailers. So here services to consumers is asked, as you are the consumer. So the answer is to be given that services rendered by retailers to the consumer are as follows. The difficulties for difficulties, because if these are the services are not given, you will feel difficulties. So what are the services required means, number one, heading you need to give a regular availability of products. Next is new products information. Next is convenience in buying. Next is wide selection. And next is after sales services. And next, provide credit facilities. So these are the services are being provided by the retailers to the consumers. If these are not there, there will be difficulties for the consumers. So like this, you have to give heading, underline it, and then give the proper brief answer, and then you have to conclude. Next illustrative question is, you can see in the slide, explain the usefulness of mail order houses. So means usefulness of mail order houses explanation is required. Next part is, what type of products are generally handled by them? Specify. You need to specify in brief manner. So number one part of the question is, explain the usefulness of mail order house. Means you need not to give what is mail order house, just you have to give the what are the advantages of mail order houses. Advantages, you go back in the chapter of internal trade, you need to give headings and then briefly in 1 or 2 lines you have to write what are the usefulness. Number one, for example, I can give you advantages, limited capital requirement. Next is elimination of middlemen. Next is absence of bad debt. Next is wide reach. Next is convenience. These are the advantages of or usefulness of mail order houses. Now next part of the question is, what type of products are generally handled by them? So you need to give on the suitability of goods for made order businesses. On suitability, like you give just underline that perishable or bulky. Then you have to define that goods should not be perishable or bulky as they cannot be easily handled. Second is goods should be graded and standardized. You have to underline should be graded and standardized. Next is goods can be easily transported at low cost. So such type of goods which are easily transported. Next is should have ready demand. So you have to underline the ready demand, write it, goods should have ready demand in the market. And another one, large quantity, availability in large quantity, where the goods should be available in large quantity throughout the year. So you have to give the answer like this, underline it and give a brief explanation. So this is the way you need to answer this type of question. Next question, as you can see in the slide, is briefly discuss the classification of small scale enterprise as per MSMED Act 2006. Specifically, the classification of small scale enterprise has been asked in this question. So you have to give the exact answer. I mean to say, you have to give what is the amount of investment is required, that enterprise, what is the plant and machinery cost is required as per MSMED Act. I can give you the hint on that you have to write according to MSMED Act 2006, an enterprise engaged in manufacture or production of goods pertaining to any industry specified in the first schedule to the Industries Development and Regulation Act 1951 is said to be like this: micro enterprise, small enterprise and medium enterprise. What is micro? How it has been classified? The micro enterprise, if investment in that enterprise in plant and machinery does not exceed 25 lakh. Similarly, in small enterprise, investment in plant and machinery is more than 25 lakhs but does not exceed 5 crore. And in case of medium enterprise, if investment in plant and machinery is more than 5 crore but does not exceed 10 crore. So this is the classification of manufacturing enterprises. Now in case of service enterprises, you have to give, in case of micro enterprise, if the investment in equipment does not exceed rupees 10 lakh, and in case of small enterprise, if the investment in equipment is more than rupees 10 lakh but does not exceed 2 crore, and in case of medium enterprise, if investment in equipment is more than rupees 2 crore but does not exceed 5 crore. So this is the which you have to give along with the briefing the data also in what are the amount involved here in case of different enterprises for classification. So like this you have to answer, you have to classify. Better if you give, make it a format and you can write it micro, small, medium, and in case of manufacturing, and in case of services again micro, small and medium. Like this, if you give the answer, you will get 100% marks. Now students, next illustrative question, as you can see in the slide, is small scale sector in India faces a lot of problems in its day-to-day functioning. Explain 5 such problems. So what is answer is given in the question itself, that small scale sector in India faces a lot of problem in its day-to-day functioning. Already it's given that lot of problem being faced by small scale sector. So now what you need to write? Explain 5 such of problem. There may be a plenty of problems, there may be a 10 to 12 problem, but you need to only write 5 such problem and underline it and give the proper briefing. For I can give you a hint. What are the problems? That number 1, shortage of finance, then shortage of raw materials, then lack of managerial skills, and then incompetent labor, and then marketing problem. So like this, you have to give only 5 such problems and underline the heading and give the explanation, but to the point. So like this, you have to give the answer. Now students, let's go ahead. Next question is on sources of business finance. What is the question? Number question 1 is state the merits and demerits of public deposits and retained earnings as methods of business finance. So there are so many methods of business finance. The question is being asked only on public deposits and retained earnings. And what is being asked? Advantages and limitation, merits and demerits of public deposit, number 1, and second is business finance. Deal with this and how you have to give the answer. You have to make it a format and give merits and demerits. Heading above, you have to give public deposits. And secondly, on another page, you have to write business finance, this retained earnings, and give merits and demerits. only give basis of differences and you have to underline. For example, in case of public deposits, what are the advantage you need to write? That simple procedure, this is a merit. Second is economical. Next is no charge over assets. And next, no loss of control. And what are the limitations? Unsuitable for new companies, unreliable source, not suitable for long-term financing, and limited funds. These are the heading, and under this you have to write one line explanation. Similarly, in case of retained earnings, you have to give what are the merits. Number one, dependable source. Second, economical. Next is more freedom. Next is ability to absorb shocks in business, enhances market value of shares, and stability of dividend. Underline the heading and give one line explanation. And what are the limitations? Dissatisfaction among shareholders. Next is uncertainty. Then ignore opportunity cost. Then danger of overcapitalization. Again, like similarly, you have answered in case of public deposit, here also you have to answer in case of retained earning by underlying the heading and giving one line briefing. Next illustrative question is explain Global Depository Receipts, that is GDR, and American Depository Receipts, that is ADR. So what is asked from you? Explain the Global Depository Receipts and American Depository Receipts as source of business finance. So how you have to answer? You need not to give any procedure for such. You just first write it that what is Global Depository Receipt, and then what are the features, and similarly what are the American Depository Receipts and what are the features. Simply explain it fully so that answer is complete. Now students, next illustrative question is on social responsibility of business. What is the question? Question is, as you can see in the slide, build up arguments for and against social responsibilities. Means social responsibility business, what are the arguments in favor and what are the arguments against. So you need to give proper heading, then give proper explanation. What are the arguments in favor of that? Means justification for existence and growth. Then next is long-term interest of the firm. Next is avoidance of government regulation. Next is maintenance of society. Next is availability of resources with businesses. Next, converting problems into opportunities. Next is better environment for doing business. Next is holding business responsible for social problems. So these are the arguments you can give with proper heading and underline the heading, then give proper explanation. Similarly, what are the arguments against social responsibilities? You need to give heading is violation of profit maximization objective. Next is burden on consumers. Next is lack of social skills. And last is lack of broad public support. So similarly, answer you have to give as in case of argument in favor of social responsibility. So you have to complete the answer like this. Now students, let's go ahead briefly discuss the major causes of environmental pollution. So major causes of environmental pollution is being asked from you. So how? Preferably you make it a format. You make a proper heading and make a chart. In chart you can divide it. Number one is air pollution. Second is water pollution. Third is land pollution. And fourth is noise pollution. After giving a chart of these four, you can explain one by one briefly. How you can brief it? In case of air pollution, you have to write air pollution is the contamination of air by the discharge of harmful substances. Under water pollution, you have to write when toxic substances enter rivers, streams and other water bodies and get dissolved or lie suspended in water, it leads to water pollution. Similarly, in case of land pollution, you have to write land pollution is caused due to dumping of toxic waste on land. Another is noise pollution. You can write it like this: noise made by machines, vehicles, firecracker, etc. leads to noise pollution. So like this you have to answer this such type of questions. So students, today I have given you the illustrative questions and given you the hints how to answer these type of questions on various chapters. And let's call for the day. Let us wind up to the day. But finally, I would request you, I would advise every student so that you must go through the NCERT books properly and in detail. Take a base of NCERT books and prepare your examination accordingly. Thank you. Bye-bye.